I'll read there. Yeah, many in class that do those things, and we're just listening to that, getting into Catholic and Christian and the history and their beliefs. And yeah, it's interesting, traditions and stuff like that, and how that correlates into law and order and technology. Right. Yeah, it's amazing actually listening to a lot of different takes on those kind of things sometimes. And for us, it's always, for decades, since we were kids, people trying to bring through the understanding of the misconceptions. Uh, like allegories. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, understanding the undertones and the stories and the associations. Yeah, it's a big joke, actually, that many are still bringing forth that understanding that a lot of people just never really realized that, just didn't take time to think about it. If you grew up in those kind of worlds and, yeah, you've been living the life, yeah, it didn't really dawn on you probably. A lot of those basic down to earth understandings and just leaving a lot of things to the mystery of it all and Jesus take the wheel, yeah, kind of thing. Fun, fun. Yeah, it gets fun and old and stupid. People putting their fun spin on trying to be clever and bring through their own personal understanding or to make fun of people in a nice way. Oh, it got so. Remember in the '90s and people were making fun of that, like it got so stupid and obvious with all the BS with the AIDS stuff, and the quilts going around, Magic Johnson, Richard Simmons, the color purple. I mean, when you really take a look back, and they ignored the concerns with vaccines back then, it got ignored, and they're like, yeah, a guy fucked a monkey, and then they screwed some of the good school programs that probably would have helped a lot of kids not have delays, maybe. Yeah, hooked on phonics. Yeah, hooked on phonics. Right, you can go back and you can see how all that was taking place back then. So yeah, it gets old to us. Yeah, have you seen Carrie, Psycho? Alfred Hitchcock and Stephen King are great examples of writers. Quentin Tarantino, you like Quentin Tarantino? Yeah, kind of going in that direction, in that alley. Yeah, and I mean, just to have a basic understanding and then to remember, oh, yeah, I have potatoes cooking. I should check those. I gotta pee. Hey, they're fucking the kids. You want to acknowledge that? No, you want to ignore it and continue to try to protect these pigs and hags that we've been dealing with for decades. And when you start to go back and you look at what's been happening with the diagnoses and infectious disease specialist and autism and the different businesses and traffickers, for people to not wake up and do what they can to help these children and hostages in the hands of Hamas, and that's exactly what they are, knowing what they've been through, I personally, I don't even like to think of the abuse they've been through in the hands of these fucking punks, and how people try to act like they're well taken care of is so fucking disgusting and disturbing. It should be a big fucking wake up call to people as to how that can look like a pretty packaged picture and everything's a-okay and the kids are well taken care of, when very much so this is some of the worst abuse you're going to find on the face of planet Earth when it comes to this kind of torture. I'm not sure how it can get any worse than torturing and fucking and abusing young children who can't defend themselves. These people are fucking sick. Yeah, the mother of the other child got full custody of the child she had with him. Yeah, that was back around 2012. Yeah, you can look that up. I know it was very scary for us. There had been a private investigator that had already shot himself, and other doctors very concerned. A lot of them have disappeared. Yeah. It was pretty scary. Dog's leg blew up. He was leaving a loaded gun around, telling me my son's name was Roberto Salazar Gonzalez and he was going to be a serial killer. Yeah, really cool. I know, it's so funny. I know, and the fact that people actually think these kind of things are cool and support it. I know, maybe you've grown up since then and you realize that was stupid. Yeah, getting the Karen, getting the Nazi, the non-vaxxer. When you start to understand the Karen associations and how prior to that it was associated to family names and covering up drug trafficking, really, really sick people doing some pretty bad things, trying to cover up targeting innocent people. Yeah, it was my grandparents' last name is Karen. My uncle was, whose last name is Karen, was saying some drug dealers from New York wanted to kill him who are connected to the Market America people, connected to the Coast to Coast people, all these different traveling bands of sickos. A lot of good people too, right? But trust me, there are sickos mixed in there. That's how they get away with it. They blend in to all these druggies and people try to be cool and investigate things and get people telling their stories and get clips of them being racist or what the fuck ever, and the tasing and the hating games. I know, that's what they're trying to get people to wake up to, and many are just playing a fucking game and it gets old. So yeah, we're trying to help our children in the hands of these fucking sickos while you fucking punk ass pigs play your game, and it's disturbing to us on many levels. Yeah, we're going to continue our full read. We did start it earlier, but we're going to do it again because we were very politely interrupted. I wouldn't even call it an interruption. It's just a normal part of the day, yeah. It's kind of always been. Oh, yeah, my gosh. It's kind of disturbing when you think about it. Just the level and the time that's gone into those things. It's almost worse than string theory. Right? For real. Alright, page 140 in the Word. And we have seen his glory, the glory of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. We have seen the Spirit in the flesh. We have seen the invisible in the visible. We have seen the Father in the Son. We have seen the immediate mediate in the mediator. It is a fun sentence. We have seen the immediate mediate in the mediator. I'll put that sentence on the board. We have seen the immediate mediate in the mediator. We have seen the grace, which is God's eternal truth, and the truth into which his grace transplants us. The difference between truth and grace resembles the difference between life and light. Grace comes solely from God. It is something we can never compare ourselves to. Something we can only receive and that never becomes our own property. That we can transmit but never possess, has our substance. We're doing green tea mixed with the vanilla midnight pea flower and a little bit of oat milk. No agave in this one. We had agave in the few we had earlier today, so yeah, don't want to overdo it on the agave. So true, yeah, exactly. Yeah, the difference between truth and grace resembles the difference between life and light. Grace comes solely from God. It is something we can never compare ourselves to, something we can only receive and that never becomes our own property, that we can transmit but never possess as our substance. Grace is always with God, even though we transmit it, so that in spite of us, it is He who transmits it. We never communicate it as we communicate our knowledge, or a truth we have understood. Truth, on the other hand, belongs to us as well as to God. We cannot refuse the grace of God, but we can refuse God. You don't want to look at it? Right, and a lot of these instances, these are the cases we're dealing with where they don't want to look at it, and it's really bad. Right, a lot of people understand that, these cases, and have dealt with them as well, and it's traumatizing to a lot of people, actually. Some flip-flop into different occupations, some come out of retirement. A lot of times they hear about certain cases, and it sparks people to come out of retirement. Yeah, for real. Yeah, sometimes too, time helps with whatever cases they were traumatized by. Yeah, we have whole groups actually dedicated to talking with people like that who are in therapy. Or it's almost like a continued rehab for alcoholics and things like that. It's like a trauma. Yeah, and I mean, oftentimes a lot of those people do drink. So, I mean, you can call them alcoholics if you want, or they use alcohol to help cope with their stress. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You can say one or the other, right? Yeah, it's interesting that case. They were mentioning that the other day. There was a recent one where the father, he died in 2024. And his daughter was murdered in 2022. She was murdered, yeah, by that woman. It was pretty bad. Tortured her. Yeah. Raped and tortured her, yes. And he had started drinking again after years of not drinking. And within 2 years, he died of cirrhosis of the liver. Something, yeah. So some people say it was the alcohol that killed him. Others say it was the grief. Right, yeah. Pretty horrific. We cannot refuse the grace of God, but we can refuse God. We can refuse to put ourselves in the state in which we can receive grace, the state in which grace becomes truth for us. Naked grace before naked man cannot be refused. When a man is inundated with grace, the giver is God alone. Man is not consulted. On the other hand, God's truth only becomes truth for us when we stand ready for it. When we say yes to it, truth is not only knowledge but a fact. That God is great may be true for him. It is only true for us when we recognize its truth and allow it to work in us and move us. For us, divine truth is a result produced. Were it to remain in the stage of mere theoretical correctness, God's truth could be apprehended by reason alone, and the propositions could be divided and classified even before they had been received as a whole. When God says, I am great, then it is true because he says it. But man only knows this truth when he has acknowledged it, and that is why one part of truth is with God and one part with man. Full of grace means there is such a fullness of grace that it cannot be subdivided. Full of truth, on the other hand, includes the division already mentioned, one part being with God, the other with man. One part of my knowledge that God is great is with God, because he has said it. The other part lies in the fact that he conceives me as his greatness through his utterance. This effect lies contained in his word, because God at once expects me to act accordingly so that he can act in me. God alone works in grace. In truth, on the contrary, there is decision. Where truth is concerned, man must answer. The concept of truth, therefore, belongs to the concept of faith. When grace appears, its appearance is comparable to a natural phenomenon. Truth, however, presupposes that man thinks and answers, that he has the capacity for decision in God. Grace is an absolute that shines from God. In truth, man is the relative, drawn into God's radiance.
In the truth he receives grace and catches sight of grace, which is the glory of God. For the glory of God which we have seen is the glory of his grace. There is a movement between grace and truth, and they circulate, as it were, one within the other. Grace goes out from God, has its effect in us. It is that we receive it, has the truth. The truth received opens our eyes to the essence of grace, leads us to the light of contemplation in which we catch sight of the glory of grace. The glory of grace is not the absolute glory of God, but the glory of the only begotten of the Father. Those who are born of God and have become inwardly aware of the mystery of supreme and living unity are touched by the supreme mystery of the glory of God. The glory of his unity is such that it cannot do otherwise than communicate itself. The movement which circulates from God and back to God in faith, love, and hope in the mission and the sacraments is not a movement from unity to polarity, plurality, and back to unity, but contains the original unity itself, and as such contains the Word. The supreme mystery is that this unity is to such a degree one and unique that it must express itself and sends forth the Son. That God can give no stronger proof of this unity, which is his glory, than beget the Son. The glory of the Father in his unity is so great that he cannot do otherwise than give his glory to God himself, that is, to the Son. The Father therefore demonstrates his glory and his unity by giving his Son to the world, and communicates himself to us in the Son. For in no other way can he communicate the uniqueness of his unity. Having no one to whom he can give his glory, he must give it to all by sending forth the Son. If the Father's solitude and glory were only relative, he would have to make himself a way to man, to each individual. He would have to bridge the gulf, as it were. But being in absolute solitude, he has the Son in him, who is the revelation and the way to the gate. To be two is ultimately supreme solitude, so that to express his perfect glory, God only needs to point towards the Son, who comes from the Father, and is so unique that he has everything from the Father. True solitude and true love are one. If a man desires the Son, he must lose something of his substance. Did you say substance, Stuart? Stewie. Yeah. 4:22 prime meridian time. Yeah, I know. He was saying that earlier when he got home. Yeah, he said he felt a little bit tired because he lost an hour of sleep. But then you think about how you'd normally be sitting at school still, and Steady is home having mozzarella sticks and Jimmy Dean. And ice cream. The kid can eat. I know, I think it's going to his height. Right? True solitude and true love are one. If a man desires a son, he must lose something of his substance. He must give it to be born by a woman. In order to be two, he must be in solitude. God gives his substance in giving his Son to the world, but he is always two in order to be alone. The parallel is therefore at the same time a contrast. Correspondingly, women, in order to be alone, has in the time of her pregnancy, though the period of motherhood is also solitude, women must receive the seed from outside. She receives what is foreign to her from man, and receives the other substance which she lets ripen in solitude. Then she must surrender the foreign being so as to be two again. What she receives in order to be alone is foreign. What she gives back in order to return to joint life is her own. The same thing occurs in the community. In order to belong to the church, I must surrender myself, and then I am no longer alone, but a member. But before I can do so, I must receive what is foreign from the church in order to be alone, and give it back as my own to the church. In order to leave a communal life, each member of the church must surrender himself in order that others may receive grace. For in the church, the solitude of each and every one is the perfection of the community. And when each has surrendered himself and only exists in devotion to his neighbor, thus becoming absolutely alone, alone because abandoned, surrendered, and still more alone because he has received his neighbor in place of himself, then comes God with his grace, takes over the solitude of each individual, and makes it fruitful. The grace is the grace of contemplation, which is always solitary, and which we have seen his glory. Oh, yeah, I mean, you could take any kind of example or event, right? Whatever it is, an awareness, a truth. It could be in a courtroom, it could be you're running a track marathon, right? And the grace, contemplation, solitary. Yeah, deep thinking. Yeah, a lot of people don't take the time to do those things, and when they do, they're really just thinking about bullshit or how they can get one over on somebody. Yeah, it's pretty bad, dude. Yeah, you try to do the best you can to not belittle people or offend them because they say, yeah, that doesn't help it wake up. Then it just gives it more fuel and steam to want to get you. Right, and when it can only do so much to you, it starts to take it out on your children, and it's actually pretty fucking sick what these pigs around here have been doing to our children. Yeah. Yeah, when you actually look at the facts and what's been happening here for years, we've been disgusted by it for years. And time again through the different cycles of trying to wake people up, there were spikes of people dying in accidents, freaking out about brain chips or cable boxes, ghosts. Yeah, we had a cycle. The ghost hunters came through twice, once around 2013 and then 2017, and that one really fucking tickled us because by 2017, and we're trying to get our daughter to a doctor, and they're still pulling that bullshit. Right, so I mean, what can you do? Right, yeah, we're talking about the ghost hunters. Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of the state workers, too, to not go along with the childish beliefs of those people. And then when you have these marketers and scammers working with some of the state people who profit from those businesses, yeah, I think you need to wake up, dude, buddy, piece of fucking shit. And we don't have a problem saying that at all. And we'll say it to your face if you really want us to. What does that mean? Does that mean we're going to get a beat down? Or somebody should teach us a lesson for disrespecting you, you fucking piece of shit monkey? Huh? Fuck you. We told you those kids were being abused, and we've told you that for years. And when we went to Canada in 2017, and when you look at the connections there to these same fucking trafficking groups and popular lines of cool people who just have, some of them just happen to do drugs too, right? I know, just like the traumatized people that see fucking 3 and 4-year-olds raped and tortured and thrown into trash cans, or how these sickos fucking get away with it. And it makes you fucking sick, dude. And then when you actually see people take their own lives because they can't live with how sick these fucking people are, time and time again, yeah, I think people need to wake the fuck up and start speaking the fuck up. You got a problem with that, bitches? Fucking nasty cunts around here. Anyways. Yeah, where were we? True solitude. God gives his substance in giving his son to the world, but he is always two in order to be alone. The parallel is, therefore, at the same time, a contrast. Correspondingly, women, in order to be alone, has in the time of her pregnancy, through the period of motherhood, is also solitude. Women must receive the seed from outside. She receives what is foreign to her from man, and receives the other substance which she lets ripen in solitude. Then she must surrender the foreign being so as to be two again. What she receives in order to be alone is foreign. What she gives back in order to return to joint life is her own. The same thing occurs in the community. In order to belong to the church, I must surrender myself, and then I am no longer alone but a member. But before I can do so, I must receive what is foreign from the church in order to be alone, and give it back as my own to the church in order to lead a communal life. Give back. You know, a lot of people do this. Yeah, you could, in any shape, manner, form. It doesn't have to be. Yeah, people get so fixated on, like, oh, these trying to get you to join a church or something. No, just in general. In life, I mean, it could be, are you a police officer? Maybe that's your communal life. And you give back by being aware, looking out for each other, whatever it is, right? Yeah, it could be maybe you're part of a biker gang. Are you the leader of the pack? Huh? Yeah, it could be whatever, wherever you are, where you're going to a fair, you're going to a concert, you're riding your bike, you're going to take care to put reflectors on, right? Not ride in the middle of the road like a total fucking dickhead and think, share the road, share the road. Right. You know better than that, right? Okay, so call it what you want to call it. Here's the church, here's my steeple. Open my mouth and hear the truth, people. Right, anyways. I hope so. I really hope so. For in the church, the solitude of each and every one is the perfection of the community. And when each has surrendered himself, right, if you're at a fair or you're going to look out for each other, you're not going to trip someone else's kid or let your kid drown their kid. Yeah, we've actually seen that happen. It's horrible. Right, you're going to make sure they're buckled in properly, right? Not think it's funny. This kid, I'm leaving this kid's buckle loose. Hey, I don't think I'm buckled in right. Hey, wait. Don't start the ride. What? I can't hear you. You motherfucker. Hey, don't start the ride. I know, right? Well, everyone else made it off safe and was having a good time. I know, it's hilarious, isn't it? We're going to finish reading later. We're on page 143. Don't forget our place. Yeah, don't hold the spot or anything. Just a ballpark idea of where in line we were, you know. Thank you, Fraulein. You're welcome. Yeah, no, our pea soup has been marinating slowly. Stewing. It's been stewing, yes. We're going to have some of that with some crackers. You know what? I actually might have I have some baguette left. I haven't finished off that baguette. Probably finish that off. Yeah, it's good with the goat cheese. Yummy. It is really good. That is yummy. What I like to do is I take a little bit of the coconut oil and I put it on the baguette and then I stick it in the air fryer for just a little bit, not too long. I don't like it too cooked. Sometimes I cook it too long and it's a little extra crispy, but I like it that way too. Yeah, I just put olive oil on it. If you cook it too much and it's too crispy, then put olive oil on it and it softens it up. But anyways, yeah, I just like put a little bit of coconut oil, air fry that, take it out, spread some goat cheese on that. It's really good too. You know, when you put banana peppers and Kalamata olives, fold it up and you got yourself a baguette sandwich. It's pretty darn good. I could eat that every day. It's yummy. And you could use different flavored goat cheese. You know, they have dill. I like the dill personally, my favorite. You can get garlic. There's a wine one. What is it, like wine and pistachio or something? How fancy. It's very affordable.
You can get it in your local grocer's deli. You're welcome. All right, yeah, this is at about a half hour, so. All right.